You know the story, right? Jesus walking on water, it's one of the most famous miracles. But what if the main point wasn't, well, the walking? What if there's a hidden declaration buried in the story that most of us just completely miss? Let's dive in and find out what's really going on here.
See, the real reason Jesus walked on the water, it wasn't just to show off his power or to wow the disciples. Nope, it was about revealing his true identity, using something like a secret code that only they, with their background, could understand. A code hidden in their own scriptures. Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. It's the dead of night on the Sea of Galilee. I mean, a truly violent storm has been kicking up for hours, and the disciples are just spent. They're exhausted, they're rowing their hearts out, and they're getting absolutely nowhere. They are totally alone, terrified, and just about at their breaking point.
And then, out of the darkness, they see a figure walking on the water. I mean, of course they think it's a ghost, right? But to really get what's happening, we actually can't stay in that boat with them. We have to jump back, way back, hundreds of years, into the Old Testament.
You have to understand, for the ancient Israelites, the sea wasn't a fun beach vacation spot. It was chaos. It was a terrifying, unpredictable, destructive force. And in their scripture, in their whole way of thinking, there was one solid gold rule. Only one being had total authority over it, and that was God himself.
And this wasn't just some vague idea. In the book of Job, it's spelled out plain as day. He alone treads on the waves of the sea. The answer to the question, who can do this, was crystal clear. God. Not an angel, not a prophet. God. Treading on the waves was like a unique, divine signature.
So you can bet this was no coincidence. The guys who wrote the Gospels, writing in Greek, they chose their words with like surgical precision. The language they used directly mirrored the Greek translation of that verse in Job. It's like they were holding up a giant neon sign, shouting to their readers, "Hey, do you see who this is? The one from the book of Job is right here." But look, that clue from Job, that was just the setup. The real bombshell, the absolute climax of this whole revelation, came directly from Jesus' own mouth.
When the disciples are screaming in fear, Jesus says, "Take courage, it is I." Now, most of our English translations totally miss the power punch here. In the original Greek, "it is I" is ego eimi. Does that sound familiar? It absolutely should. It's the exact same phrase used for God's divine name, revealed to Moses at the burning bush, I am.
So let's be super clear. He wasn't just saying, "Hey guys, relax, it's just me, your friend Jesus." No. He was making one of the most earth-shattering theological statements you could possibly make. By walking on the sea of chaos and declaring, "I am," Jesus was claiming to be Yahweh, the God of Israel, standing right there in front of them.
So, how do you even respond to something like that? I mean, a revelation that big? Well, Peter gives us a perfect example of the very human mix of incredible, bold faith and sinking, crippling fear.
I mean, just think about the sheer audacity of Peter. He yells out, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you on the water." And Jesus just says, "Come." And for a second, Peter does the impossible. He's walking on water. But then he makes that critical mistake. He takes his eyes off the one controlling the storm, and he looks at the storm itself, the wind, the waves, and his faith just gives way to fear, and he starts to sink.
But what's so beautiful about this is Jesus' response. The text says immediately. There's no pause, no lecture, no "I told you so." The very second Peter cries out for help, the hand that stills the storms reaches out and saves him. It's just grace, meeting him right there in the middle of his failure. Okay, so why does this 2,000-year-old story really matter to us today? What's the takeaway for the storms, the chaos that we face in our own lives? Well, I think it really boils down to three incredible truths. First, this story is an undeniable declaration of who Jesus is. He is God, plain and simple. Second, it shows us that God doesn't wait for us on the shore until our storms calm down. He walks right into the middle of the chaos to get to us. The thing we fear the most actually becomes his pathway to us. And third, Peter's wild ride teaches us that faith isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about where you put your focus. When we focus on the storm, we sink. When we focus on him, we just might do the impossible. So this story really asks us to completely reframe our struggles. It wasn't just a miracle about physics. It was a revelation of who is ultimately in control of all the chaos. And that leaves us with one last question to think about. What chaos in your life right now isn't an obstacle, but is actually the very pathway He's using to walk toward you?